Hi everyone, welcome back to the Intro to USD Workflow series. In the last tutorial, I covered the basic USD structure, including prim hierarchy and variant sets. Today I'll show you how to lay out USD objects and assemble them into a scene. Last time I used arcade machines as an example when demonstrating variant sets. Today I'll show you how to assemble the objects, including the arcade machines, into an arcade shop. Then I'll demonstrate how to assemble different types of buildings into a neighborhood. Without further ado, let's get started. For the arcade shop, I'm going to create a new layer. In the USD Layer Editor, under Create, select Stage with New Layer. This creates an anonymous layer, which means it's not saved to disk yet. I'm going to double-click and save it. For this demo, I've prepared a USD file for each of the objects in this assembly. The original models of all the assets used here were created by Kitbash3D. First, I'm going to create a root prim for this arcade shop. I want it to be an X form so that it can contain all the objects within it and transform the entire arcade shop. To create this root prim, right-click on the stage shape, select Add New Prim, X form. Let's rename it Arcade Shop. To load the objects into the scene, I'm going to create an X form prim for each object and reference the USD file that I've prepared for the object. For example, to load the building into the scene, right-click on the root prim, select Add New Prim X form. Let's rename it Arcade Building. To reference a USD stage or prim, right-click, select Reference, Add. In this pop-up window, I'll select the USD file for the arcade building. In the Options panel, you can select the composition arc. The default one is Payload, which is what we want here. Payload allows you to unload a reference without deleting it. I'll show it in a moment. If you want to reference a specific prim in the USD file, you can provide the prim path here. I'll leave it blank because the building is the only thing in this file. Click Reference, and now we see the building. To unload a payload reference, right-click and select Unload. You can easily load it back in the same way by right-clicking and selecting Load. Similarly, I'm going to create an X form for the sidewalk and reference the USD file that contains it. Right now the purpose is set to proxy. That's why it looks a bit weird. I'm going to set the purpose to render for better visualization. Go to the Attribute Editor in the Stage Shape panel under Stage Display, uncheck Proxy and check Render. Now it looks much better. Next, I want to add the arcade machines. Here we have a number of them in a row. It will be time-consuming and tedious to create an X form for each of them and then reference the USD file for each of them. Instead, I'll create an X form for one machine and duplicate it to make the others. If you want to create multiple copies of the same object, instancing is a great approach. Here's how it works. In the last tutorial, I showed a variant set of these arcade machines. If I want to make multiple copies of the blue arcade machine, I can create an X form that references the variant set, set the variant to the blue one, mark it as instanceable, and then duplicate it. When identical objects are marked as instanceable, USD creates a prototype for this object in the background, and every copy is loaded as an instance. This saves memory, especially when you need a large number of identical objects. Now I'll show you how to do it in the outliner. First, let's create an X form for one arcade machine. Right-click on the root prim, select Add New Prim, X form. Rename it Arcade Machine. Now I reference the variant set of the arcade machines. I can switch between the variants by right-clicking, navigating to the variant set, and selecting a variant from the list. To mark this prim as instanceable, go to the Attribute Editor, under Metadata, check Instanceable. Now I'm ready to duplicate this arcade machine as an instance. To do that, press Shift and hold it while dragging the manipulator. I'm going to make 2 more copies of it. For this one, I'll switch to a different variant and make a few copies. Here's what USD has done in the background. It created 2 prototypes, one for the white machine and one for the red machine. And it made 3 instances of the white prototype and 4 instances of the red prototype. Now let's add the display cases in the same way. I'm going to create an X form for one display case. Reference the USD stage that contains it. Switch to a variant that I like, and move it to the desired location. Then I'll mark it as instanceable, duplicate it, and adjust its location. I'm going to repeat this process one more time to add another display case. I'll also add 2 barricades in the same way. In addition to Move, Rotate, and Scale tools, MayaUSD also supports the Universal Manipulator. For example, you can access the Universal Manipulator from Modify Transformation tools and use it to transform the prim. This is how you can assemble USD objects. I'm going to hide the stage and show you the finished arcade shop. This is what it looks like when it's finished. Now let's move on to the next demo, which is to assemble different buildings into a neighborhood. I prepared a few USD buildings, and they were assembled in the same way as the arcade shop. I've also created a variant set of these buildings, similar to how I created the variant set for the arcade machines, so that I can easily switch between different buildings. Let's take a look at this variant set. I'll hide this arcade shop and open the USD file of the building variant set by selecting Create Stage from File. Here we have a facade of some creepy abandoned place. I'll switch to the render purpose for better visualization. If I expand the tree, you see the variant set. Let's take a quick look at what we have. Here's a bike shop. And we also have an open-air restaurant. The arcade shop we just showed, a music store, and a laundry shop. Here's the USD file for this variant set. We see that for every variant, it references the USD file of the corresponding building. Now let's see how to create the neighborhood. I'm going to delete the variant set from the scene and create a new USD stage for the neighborhood. Before I load the buildings, I want to briefly go over the layer structures for USD assembly. USD layers are often organized by shots. A shot typically has a root layer with a few sublayers, each dedicated to a department, such as layout, animation, VFX, and lighting. In this tutorial series, we need 3 sublayers: layout, animation, and lighting. I've already created the root layer. I'm going to name it districtshot.usd. save it, and create 3 sublayers for layout, animation, and lighting respectively. To create a sublayer, right-click and select Add Sublayer. Double-click on it and save it to disk. I'll name it districtlayout.usd. I'll repeat this process to create the sublayers for animation and lighting. Today I'm only working on the layout, so I'll target the layout layer by clicking on the circle in front of it. From now on, every edit I make will be written to this layer. And to prevent myself from accidentally writing data to a wrong layer, I'll lock all the layers except for the layout one. To do that, simply hover over the layer and click the lock icon. I'm going to lock the lighting sublayer and the root layer as well. You can also system lock layers using a Python script. I'll cover that in the next tutorial. Now we're ready to load the buildings into the scene. Similarly to what I showed earlier for the arcade shop, I'll first create a root prim for the scene. Right-click under Add New Prim, select Xform. I'll rename it District. Within this root prim, I'll create an Xform for one building. I'll reference the variance set of the buildings I just showed. I'll mark it as instanceable, although it's not necessary if every building in the scene is different. I'm doing it just in case I need multiple copies of the same building. Duplicate it to create the next building. I'll switch the variant to the bike shop for this one. And I'll just repeat the same process to lay out the other buildings. That's how we can lay out a scene with the USD. In the next video, I'll focus on USD camera and animation caching. Thanks for watching. Stay tuned. I'll see you next time.